Hello everybody, welcome to a new genealogy tutorial. On today's tutorial, I will be discussing the Amsterdam Archives website, Archief.Amsterdam. For anybody who is researching in the Netherlands, even if your family didn't necessarily live in Amsterdam, it's very likely that the Amsterdam Archives has something that is connected to your family. The website has a lot of the documents already in there, and they are digitized, and this is a free website to use. So you don't even have to worry about setting up an account or paying for an account. You can just go onto the website and start going at it. So as you can see here, this is the front page of the website. It's Archief.Amsterdam. That's it, and then it brings you right here. It is in Dutch, and if you're like me and you use Google Chrome, you'll automatically have a Google Translate app, which should usually pop up right here, and you can click this and you can choose to translate the page. Sometimes for some people it'll automatically offer to translate the page for you. Now, one thing I should note with using that on this website is that it sometimes causes little glitches or hiccups, and it may make it so that it'll seem like you can't access something or things just aren't working correctly. If you're going through the website and you have the translate up and you notice that you can't see something or it's not pulling up or it doesn't seem to be working right, take the translate off and then try to do what you're doing. It may take a little bit to get used to learning what, the translation of things are. But once you do that, the website should be working fine. Now, in the website, you have a lot of different stuff. And in one of my previous videos, I talked about a lot of this stuff over here on the right, the introduction and the regulations and all of that. And it just gives a really good overview of the Amsterdam Archives and what they offer. But the two main things that I'm going to discuss in this video, because this video is going to be focused on people who want to research their family in connection to Amsterdam, we're going to be discussing the indexes and the inventories. And that's the real meat of this website. So I'm going to actually take it to the original. I just prefer using the website that way. And I also just won't have to worry about any hiccups as I go along with it. So first we're going to look at the index. The index is where you can actually search the records by name. So you can actually search for your family's names and things like that. When you're in the inventories, which we're going to go over a little later in this video, all you get is you get the title of the catalogs, and then you have to actually go in and look at the digital copies of the books and basically go page by page digitally until you find what you need. Sometimes things in the inventories may have an index to it, which we'll discuss a little later. So for now, we're just going to talk about the index, and I'm going to talk about four main pieces of it. The first piece will be the bevolking registers. Right there, which we're going to translate, and that basically translates to population registers. And the other thing that we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the dupe registers. Now, these are birth registers, so basically your birth records. And the dupe registers will come up actually as baptism registers. And well, it does reference baptisms for a lot of people. It's not always going to be baptisms. The other thing that we're going to be going over is the market Carton. And this is a really cool little catalog, partially because you can actually see pictures of a lot of people, and especially being that they date back to 1922. These are the places where a lot of people who are related to families that suffered through the Holocaust, where they can see some of the only pictures of their family who perished. The last thing we'll discuss is the Untitled registers. So now going up to the bevolking registers, you'll notice that the first ones we have start in 1851, go to 1853. We have an 1853 to 1863, an 1864 to 1874, and in 1874 to 1893. Now over here on the right, you'll notice Zoik, Voorbeeld, and Handleiding. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly, so don't take my pronunciation as the truth. But when we translate that, you'll notice it says search, example, and instructions. And just as it says, if we do search, that's going to search it. Example, and we're just going to click on this, it's going to show you the actual example, and it's going to give you an explanation of what you're looking at in the example, so how you can basically pull information out of it. When we go back and we take a look at instructions, the instructions are just going to be actual instructions. They're basically telling you about these registers, how what they mean, how they work. You can see different notes. The house numbers and the address of 1853 to 1863 are not the numbers of today. So a lot of important information that you might not know just by looking at the records. So I highly suggest checking out these pieces before you start looking at any of the inventories or indexes, just to get a really good idea of what you're going to be looking at and what's available. So when we do search, and I'm going to put this back to the original, when we do the search, we get this little box here where it has 3 different fields that we can enter in. Octernam, this is the last name. Tussenvogel is the, I believe that's middle name. I'm not quite sure. I've never actually really used that. And then first name, which comes up is Vornam. And usually I go by the last name. You can see a bunch of the names that I've searched here. So we're going to search for the first one, Moscow, which is a family of mine. And once you just put something in the search field, you'll notice this box pop up. And this is showing what results are going to show up if you actually do that search. So we haven't actually done the search yet. And we can actually hit Tune Resultat, basically the results, to see what it actually is coming up as. But maybe if we're looking at this, we're thinking, oh no, that's actually not what I'm looking for. Maybe it's something else or something close. You can also hit Angiver, which translates over to about, which literally just means it's kind of like a phonetic sort of searching. And so when we do that, it's basically going to search for any surnames that are similar to it. So you're going to see this big change. Once we do that, there's a lot more options, and maybe this was the family name that we were looking for. So we're going to hit Tune Resultat, and this is going to take us to the results. And so let's say that here we go, Abraham Manju. And so here we have the Bevolking Register. And we, in this part of the program, even if you have Google Translate going, so if we hit Translate, you're going to notice none of this stuff up here or down here translated, really. So the reason that is because this is a Flash program. So you need to have Flash if you want to look at these documents. But also, because of that, you're not going to be able to translate the things that are within Flash. So it's obviously not going to translate the words in the document, but it's also not going to translate over here to Rugnar, the website. That means go back to the website. Up here, this is the information on the document that you're looking at. So the name of the person, their birth date, where they are, the different pieces that are connected to this, and then even the account number. And then over here we have Vorige and Volgende. Now we can't click those right now, but that basically means previous page and next page. And then Voledig Schirm is going to be full screen. Then normal, we can go back. So the down here we have contrast, which when you click that, you can see it makes contrast. So a little bit easier to read the words. If you're having trouble, try contrast, and it makes it a lot easier to actually read. And here we can see all of the information. This is basically a census-like record, and the population registers are really cool because different than many of the censuses, such as in the US or in the UK, This actually gives information on what happened to the people, if they died, if they moved. It doesn't always show this information, but over on the second page, it will give different little notes. And these are giving different pieces of information from the time period that they're covering. So you'll see people being crossed out, and that basically just means that they've moved away. It doesn't necessarily mean they've died or anything like that. It can, but it's basically meaning that they're no longer in that household. And then we're going to just go back. Now, another thing in terms of doing a search, we also have date, location, and others. So you can actually search by date. You can do location, so if you know that they lived in a certain area, or even you can look by street name, birthplace, street name, and source, because sometimes the bevolking registers will list different locations. And then if you want to, you can just X those out to clear out some space. Then with some of the other indexes that we were talking about, we're going to just go back here. Just go here. The next piece that we're going to be looking at are the dupe registers. And the dupe registers also come up as the baptismal records, but they aren't all baptism records, and they relate to all sorts of populations within Amsterdam. So it's not just anyone who was Christian or Catholic or anything like that. You have Jews in here. I believe you have Mennonites. You have just all sorts of people represented. So when we're looking in here, we're actually going to do a lookup for the family Nunes Vaz, which I've talked about in a previous video. So when we go to these results, we are going to look at Jacob Nunes Vaz here, born March 21st, 1799. So we're going to pull his up. And so this actually, I'm going to go back a little bit and just revise what I said. So this actually isn't Jacob Nunes Vaz being born. Jacob is the father. And here we see Vader meaning father. And if you look over here to the right, this is the child. So the child's name is Abraham. Now this is actually my third great-grandfather, Abraham Nunes Vaz. And this is his birth record. And so we can see where he is, what group he's a part of, his father's name, and here the mother's name, and then we have the information on the record. And this is really great information, and this is basically just kind of breaking down what the information from the record actually is. But then when we click to see, now this is a great example of a lot of these records, because even though we know it's in here, we now have to find it. So it's not going to give you the record and just show you the piece that you need. You still have to do a little bit of detective work. So we know that it's March of 1799. So just in looking in here, we can see 1799. Now these are Jewish records from the Portuguese Jewish community. So you notice this 5559, that's actually the Hebrew year. So they go by both. So scrolling down, we can see January 31st, February 3rd, then we've got February 11th, and then we have March 16th, then we have March 19th, then we have March 20th. Looks like March 29th. Let's see. And so it should be somewhere around here, because we know it's 1799. So here we go. Okay. So here it is. This is Abraham van Jacob Nunes Vaz. So Abraham, son of Jacob Nunes Vaz. And van Simcha de Aaron Senior Coronel. So this is Abraham, the son of Jacob Nunes Vaz, and Simcha de Aaron Senior Coronel. And he is born in March 21st, 1799. So after the dupe registers, we're going to be talking about the marked Carton, which is the market permits. So here translated, they call it market cards. So we're going to do a search in here. And as I do all the time, I'm going to take the translation off, just do the original. And so we are going to do the Nunes Vaz family again. And so here we get it to pop up. And when we pull it up, you can kind of see the documents over here in the right side. And you can often see these little sort of black squares when you're looking at the marked Carton. What that means is that that's actually a picture of the person. So here we have F. Nunes Vaz, born the 18th of February, 1908. So when we click on this, here we have his card, and here's a picture of him with what looks like his wife. And this gives you all of the information on what is he selling in the market, where is he selling it, different pieces of information just about his business. So it's a really great look into a lot of different people. Now, I know that both these people were killed in the Holocaust, and these are probably some of the only pictures that exist that we can at least, say who they are. It's possible that there are other pictures of them out there and, we just don't have them. But these Mark Carton give you a real great glimpse into a lost world. So here we're going to look at M. Nunes Vaz. And here, M. Nunes Vaz, she's born 1858. So this is somebody who lived through a lot. And here we have a great picture of her thanks to these cards. Now, one thing that I didn't discuss before that can be useful in a lot of this, especially because you'll see different little notes and things, and it doesn't look like we have anything like that on here, where it's basically just written on the side. So down here on the bottom, we have these little A's all on their sides and upside down. These are just ways so that you can flip the card. So if you want to flip it upside down or if you want to flip it this way, basically it's just a great way where if there's different notes, it makes it easy to read and actually look at what's going on. You can also download the cards. Downloads is very straightforward. All you have to do, it'll come up like this. You want to hit this button and then it's going to set it all up. It's going to take, a little faster. And so we have two options. We have a high resolution one and we have a low resolution one. And you can see one is 0.4 megabytes, the other is 1 megabyte. And so download either one. I've personally never noticed a big difference between them, but I'm also not a huge computer geek, so maybe someone else can. But going back, so back to the index, the last one we're going to talk about, which is a really, really important catalog, and especially important because you can actually search it, and that is the Untitled registers, which translates to the underlying registers. Now, what the Untitled registers are also known as marriage bonds. And they are basically a marriage contract that is put out to the public. And it's kind of a way of basically saying these people intend to get married. And it gives anybody a chance to air any grievances towards that marriage or basically say that it shouldn't happen. And this is something that's been that went on for a long time. And it dates from 1565 to 1811. And you're going to notice a lot of the records on here end in 1811. The dupe registers ended 1811. The begraf plots, which has to deal with burials, that ends in 1811. The reason for this is actually because when Napoleon came into the Netherlands, he changed how a lot of documentation was done. And it's actually because of Napoleon that we have things like the Bevolking registers and other different registers. Now, there are some things that kept up even after Napoleon, and you'll see a lot of registers that go for a long time. But it's just kind of a little fun fact of history. But with the Untitled registers, it gives a lot of great insight because it will tell you where somebody was born. It will give you the witness for each person. So it'll give you the witness for the groom. It'll give you the witness for the bride. If the bride or the groom were married previously, it'll often indicate that and will sometimes even say the name of the previous bride or the previous groom. And it will just give you little notes about things as well. Sometimes it'll say if it was approved by the parent or just different little tidbits. So we're going to go and take a look in here. And in this register, I should note that you really want to do the Angever, basically, search the phonetic, because the surnames in these records were often written phonetically. So you'll find a lot of people, even though that they were literate, their name will be spelled incorrectly, and then they'll be signing with a completely different name. So especially a lot of the Dutch Jews and the Dutch Sephardic Jews, they'll have names that, like Barzilai, which is usually spelled Barzilay. The Dutch will write it as Barzelaij, Barzilai. So they spell it, Aij as an I. So as that example, we have Barzilai. And we're going to put it Aij, and we can see 4 pop up, and then we can change it as AY, and the same 4 pop up. And then we do Angever, and then we have all sorts of spelling popping up with the Z, with the S, double L's. And so you can see how important it is to use that button. So when we take a look at the results, we're going to see all of these different people. And this is the date of the marriage. So on the records, it will have the date of when the marriage was proposed. And so let's say we're just going to take a look at Leah Barzilai. So here, Leah Barzilai was married on the 3rd of June, 1728. And the name of the bride, of the groom is Jacob Catella Spinoza. And then the name of the bride, Leah Barzilai, the name's spelled twice, so we can actually see that it already indicates that there's multiple spellings. And then when we click on this, the Ondetra registers are going to be split up 3 to a page. And when you go in, the best thing to do is I like to zoom into the top, and I'll go down here and I'll zoom just out a bit. I always go to about 50%. That's usually the best view in my opinion. And I'm just going to scroll down here, and I'm going to be looking for that name. And here we go. We have Jacob Spinoza Catella. Van, and then you see it looks like an A-N with 2 lines under it. This means from Amsterdam. This is just a little notation meaning Amsterdam, and you'll see this a lot. So this means that Jacob Spinoza was born in Amsterdam. And then looking through this, we're next looking for the witness. And we see going through it that we have a witness, Brother David Spinoza Catella. So now we have a little bit of Jacob's tree built. We know that Jacob's brother is David. And then here we have a little symbol, and that's breaking between the groom and the bride. So the bride, Leah Barzilai, and this is the Dutch spelling of Barzilai. And you can see down here, she spells it Barzilay, which the R and Z kind of look a little weird. But this record is also from 1728, so writing was a little different then. But we have Leah Barzilai, also born in Amsterdam. Then we're going to go and we're going to look and we're going to see the witness was her father, Jacob Barzilai. So we're getting a lot of great information. We can see their signatures. We know that they were literate. And you can see that even though that they were literate here in 1728, they were not being written in the document in the way that they actually sign. So going back to this search page within the Ondetra registers, let's say that we are looking for someone specific and we have a little trouble finding them. So let's say that it's going to be a common name just like De Jong. De Jong is a very common name in the Netherlands. So we have a whole bunch of people. So we're going to do these results. And here we can see we have tons of pages, tons and tons and tons of pages. Well, maybe we can then narrow our search down. So let's say that we were looking for Jacob de Jong. And there we go. Now we've actually narrowed it down just by putting the first name in, and we've narrowed it down to 47 people. So this is just a way of narrowing it down. So now that we have gone over the basics of the index, how to search through it, what's available, how to learn about each catalog, I highly suggest translating this page if you don't speak Dutch or understand Dutch, and just kind of searching through and seeing what is available. There's a lot of stuff available in here. Some things don't translate that great, but you can still kind of get a good idea. And then just following the same examples of each of the previous things that I've shown, you can find a whole lot of information. So we're going to go back to showing the original, and now we're going to go and look in the inventories. And looking in the inventories, this is extremely expansive. And when I say expansive, I mean expansive. Over here, you can see the number. This is the number of the catalog. So basically the reference number, the collection, so the name of the collection. And then here we have in leading, inventories, PDF, and scans. In leading, that basically means preface. It's basically an explanation. It's going to explain what is in the catalog, what you can see in there, and it's going to give a little bit of a history behind it. Then for inventories, this is actually the inventories. So if you click the red link inventories, that's going to take you to the actual catalog, so you can actually see what is in there. The PDF is basically like an extended version of in leading. It's going to give you a big breakdown in a PDF form of that catalog, an entire overview of it. And then the last column here, scans. This is just how many scans are within that catalog. So here we can see that, there's a lot of catalogs that don't have many scans. Some that have a few, 677, 586, 82, 1400. And then you can find some that, have 12,000, 13,000, 10,000, 26,000. And you just have a whole lot of stuff available. And this is just the A's. You can see all A through Z. There's going to be a lot of stuff. So if we look in P, we have a whole lot of more catalogs. And here we see one that's 140,000. And this is one that I am in a lot. The Portuguese Jewish community. And we're going to be using this one as an example. But first, before we use that as an example, I'm going to show you about the search function within the inventories. Now going back to doing a translate, we can see search in all archives, search archive creator, or search access number. Search in all archives is exactly as it sounds, just a search in all of the archives. It's going to search the archive collection name. It's going to search the subcategory name. So there's catalogs within each inventory, and each one has its own name, and that is what you're going to be searching all pieces of it. Search archive creator, now that's kind of a loss in translation sort of thing. Zoek archive vormer, basically it is look through just the archive name. So basically not necessarily the entire inventory, but just the collection. So let's say that we want to look up Costa. De Costa is a big family in Amsterdam. And so when we do that, here it's pulling up the different catalogs, the different inventories that has the name Costa in it. So Committee voor de God, I'm not even going to try. But each one of these has the Costa name, and then we can click on this, and it's going to take us to the information about it. The in leading, this is what the in leading looks like. So when you're on the page, you'll notice the information up here to the right too, in leading, and then inventories. We're going to click that, and here we have the actual inventories. And we can click this little square, and that's going to open it up. And we can just keep, clicking them. And then 28 bestanden, that's 28 digitized documents, 28 digitized pages. So here we have the name. And so once you're in here, you can do the translate. So here, documents concerning the settlement of the estate of Francisco de Schonenberg. So we click this document. And here we have all of this information that's related to the files of Schonenberg, and it's dating to June 16th, 1718. And so here, Volgenden, the next page. Here we have a piece of writing that is a little hard to see, so we're going to turn that, and boom, it's basically just the front to the letter, to the note. So the next page, we're going to go back to the we want to see it, and then you can just zoom in. You can read through it. You can see Rachel Belmonte, alias Schonenberg. This is actually a really well-known family, the Belmonte family, who also went by Schonenberg. And so this is just going into different information. You can look through and try to find names. We see Joseph Enriquez Jr. And in here, this one's a little different than a lot of things you'll find in the Amsterdam archives, because this is part of the Portuguese Jewish community. And so this is actually, a lot of this is written in Portuguese. So depending on what communities you're looking into, you may find a lot of things not written in Dutch within the archives. There are a lot of things that are written in Hebrew. There are a lot of things that are written in English or in Italian or French, or just, there's a lot of just all sorts of pieces that are within the archives. And you can just find a whole lot in there. So be ready for any sort of translation, and don't assume that everything is going to be written in Dutch. So we can see that this collection is just part of a larger collection, Belmonte alias Schonenberg. And this is part of the 946 catalog archives of Da Costa. So if we want to just go back to the front page, we hit the inventories, and here we are. So with the automatic translate, and then the show originals, even with different little things, it's going to try to translate, even if it might not be the right thing. Because a lot of names will be from certain things. So that's why it's a little hard to kind of go through it. So, a hunter, is it actually about a hunter, or is this person's name a Jager? So let's see, translate this page. No. Show original. There we go. So a Jager, a Hymans, a Ziegers, a Koch, is this a cook, or is it a Koch? So just, I suggest trying to go through, and, sometimes it's a little easier to do it without the Google Translate. So now we're going to go over to the Portuguese Jewish community information. Now this is file number 334. And when you're looking through the Amsterdam archives, if you know a specific catalog number and inventory number, make note of it. It is very important, and the way that they do things in this website and just within the archives itself is very organized. And just by learning the numbering system that they've used, it's going to make it really easy to not only find things, but then actually know where to find them again if you aren't able to save something for whatever reason. So one thing that you can do, if you know a number, you can always, look by the number. So Togong's number. So if we're going to translate that, you're going to see that it goes search access number. So for our case, we want 334, so we just do 334, and boom, there we go. It gives us 334, and then there's also another subcategory of 334, and that's just a supplement. So showing the inventories, first we're going to show the leading. So here, this is the preface, the information about this catalog. And what it's giving you is it's giving you pieces of information on each inventory within the catalog and a different history behind it. And there's a lot of stuff within the Portuguese Jewish community that is really important to it. And that is usually best you want to do without the translation first to see what you're looking for, because some things will translate a little oddly. So when we do the translate again, we can see that it's changing in a way. So here in Miles Sadaka, here we see the information about it. So the Miles Sadaka Brotherhood, Mantle of the Charity, was founded in 1735 by some members of the Portugees-Israelite community with the aim of distributing winter coats to needy members of the municipality. The board consists of 10 founders and a treasurer, who was chosen annually by the founders from the members. In 1849, when the regulations were revised, it was decided that the board would consist 11 members. And so this is just giving you a really great view into the information behind the actual documents. Then the other thing we can look at, the PDF print version. So this is going to give you all of the information, the complete overview of the inventory. This, being a PDF file, is going to be in Dutch, and you won't be able to translate it unless you have a translation tool within your PDF programming. So with this, you can get the entire in leading you see. You also are getting all of the different numbers. So these are all of the catalogs within the 334 catalog. So we see 334, and then here we have all of the other parts of that catalog. We have the in leading, which is giving all of that information. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to have to scroll up. This is the actual inventory, and this is the name of each catalog that they have. And so this is everything within the catalog. So just scrolling through, you can just see the expanse of this catalog. And it has a lot of information that is from little notes about different things, to letters, to birth records, marriage records, burial records, wills, catalogs about different charities and things that the different events that the synagogue had. And it even has the decision of it has decision books by different communities within the community. So going back, now we're going to look at the meat of this, and this is the actual inventories. And as I showed before, all you have to do is click this little square box, and that's going to open up what you want to look at. So what we're going to look at is actually one of my favorite catalogs within all of the Amsterdam archives. So we're going to go 552. Now remember, I said knowing the numbers is really important. We're going to do 526 and then 5265. So you see how that goes. We have the 5, then there's 2 options within that. And now we're going 52, and then there's all these different options within that. And you click 526, and then there's the other options. So now that we're within 5265, now it breaks it down into the different pieces of this catalog. So we see that we have 8 different pieces. And my favorite one, it's this one right here. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that in Dutch, but basically what it is, these are letters written by people attesting to somebody being of Sephardic Jewish ancestry. So these are basically letters from people vouching for other people. And it's just really cool because you can see all of these different letters, and if you can, get them translated, they translate some interesting information, sometimes about the person's family, where they came from. Sometimes it'll give information about how the person writing the letter knows this person and their relationship. And you can look at a lot of these, and this is just this one looks just like a little note, and it's just someone basically vouching for somebody else. And it's just a really cool glimpse into the expanse of what is available, because not only are you getting to see these letters from basically everyday people, but these letters were really vital because these were making it so that the person they were vouching for could actually come to Amsterdam and become a part of that community. So we're just going to keep kind of scrolling through a few of these so you can see some of this stuff. And so you can find a lot of different signatures on these. Signatures are really important. When you have this much access to the documentation of the past and a lot of things that are signed, they can be a great way to correlate one document to another. A lot of people carry the same name, and especially when you have generations upon generations of one family, you might find that the family with the same surname might have a lot of different Jacobs, and a lot of those Jacobs might be living around the same time. So finding their signatures and then being able to match one signature to another, that can really open up the ability of finding records on your ancestry and your family. Thank you so much for checking out this genealogy tutorial. If you enjoyed, please be sure to give it the thumbs up. You can also click the subscribe button and click that little bell so that you can get notifications whenever I post a new video. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger, or become a patron on Patreon, also at GeneaVlogger, to get extra access to more content.